The next item of business is a statement by Natalie Dawn-Innes on secure care and the wider care system. The Minister will take questions at the end of her statement. Therefore, there should be no interventions or interruptions. And I call on Natalie Dawn-Innes. Minister, up to 10 minutes, please.
Presiding Officer, I acknowledge the current capacity constraints in secure care. Alongside partners, we're taking a range of actions to address those challenges, and I've been updating the Parliament regularly since the beginning of the year. I highlighted those actions during my most recent statement in late March, and at the end of April I also wrote to Education and Justice Committee conveners. Today I'll set out again the work we're doing to bolster our secure care estate, to develop preventative alternatives to deprivation of liberty, as well as work to improve the wider care system. In doing so, we aim to maintain an integrated, equitable approach to children who may require secure care decisions around the placement of children in secure care accommodation, and the appropriate continuation of placements remain with the relevant decision-makers, including the independent courts, children's hearings, chief social work officers and secure accommodation providers themselves. Every appropriate action is being taken to protect the capacity across the secure estate, and as of 10 a.m. there were 4 secure places available. On capacity, I am pleased to confirm the new National Contingency Resource opened in Rossy last month. Those beds are now available and being used to care for children. That represents a significant government commitment, but we do expect to take further capacity restoration action in the months ahead, and I am very grateful to providers and other partners for their continued agility as we consider options. One key factor directly informing the extent of capacity restoration action will be the continued recovery at St Mary's Kenmure. St Mary's are currently actively augmenting staff capacity. They wish to support an incremental, sustainable and increased capacity as soon as safely possible. I understand that some key appointments have been made and others are in train. Now, our primary focus has been on stabilising and restoring capacity within secure accommodation. This is essential to ensure that children have continued access to the care and support they need to keep them and others safe in environments best suited to their individual needs. And I want to assure the Chamber that we are approaching this work with urgency and with care. Indeed, each action must be implemented in a way that upholds the highest standards of safety and overall equity of access. We are supporting improved awareness and confidence among professionals working in Scotland's placing authorities by funding a dedicated professional lead at Social Work Scotland for the next 12 months. This policy and practice advisor will work alongside officials in the Scottish Government, and the recruitment process is now well underway and the interviews have been held in the past week. My late April correspondence to committees confirmed that I had intended to deliver a further statement next month. At that point, we'd be able to confirm other elements of our contingency actions alongside our response to the Reimagining Secure Care report. That said, I can assure members that the Scottish Government has been active across the 3 key domains of the challenge, looking at possibilities before, during and after secure care. And all 3 are essential aspects of a comprehensive response. In order to be as helpful as I can be to Parliament, I will summarise some options generated over recent weeks. Now, I must emphasise that not all of these leads will be realised. I'll say as much as I can without breaching potential partners' confidence or risking child confidentiality. And I'm grateful to all from across the sector who have generously supported that activity. At each stage, we've benefited from advice and support from COSLA and Social Work Scotland. Firstly, we hope to confirm shortly the offer of another national contingency resource funded by Government. Officials have also contacted and visited former secure accommodation and residential childcare sites in Edinburgh and North Lanarkshire to see whether those could be brought back into service to support restored capacity. We've also asked each current secure provider how they may be able to assist with restoring capacity. We may even consider new build, flexible, secure provision in line with what is set out in the promise and the Reimagining Secure Care report. Beyond direct secure capacity, officials have reached out to NHS Lothian colleagues to learn about multidisciplinary health-led teams offering trauma-informed alternatives, and officials have spoken with a range of potential third sector partners. However, I have been clear that secure accommodation should only ever be used when absolutely necessary, and that is why we are also working closely with third sector partners to identify and to develop high-intensity wraparound services that offer credible, safe alternatives to the deprivation of liberty. These services will help improve outcomes, reduce reliance on secure care and help deliver the ambitions of the promise. Further information will be included in our response to the Reimagining Secure Care report to be published next month. Moreover, members are aware how crucial early help and support is in preventing families from reaching crisis in the first place. And that's why we've increased funding for children's service planning partnerships through the Whole Family Wellbeing Funding to £38 million this year, to ensure holistic family support is available in our communities, to help families thrive and to prevent crisis. I'm pleased that the latest social work statistics published in April suggest that progress is being made, with an 18.1% reduction in the number of children and young people in care since the promise was made in 2020. Whilst this only tells part of the story, it is encouraging progress. This activity will continue to be informed by the next stages of the Promise Progress Framework, published jointly with COSLA and the Promise Scotland last year, and in the year ahead, work being led by the Promise Scotland to further develop Plan 2430 and the route maps to change. Children's care services also, of course, rely on a skilled and specialist workforce, and that's why we continue to focus on ensuring a sustainable supply of graduates into the Scottish social work profession. I'm pleased to announce today that the Scottish Government will be uplifting the value of the postgraduate social work bursary administered to eligible students by the Scottish Social Services Council to £11,000 per year from academic session 25 to 26. Another part of our unwavering commitment to Scotland's children is our continued support for the development of Bairnshoes, with £10.5 million in additional investment for 25-26. With 10 Pathfinder and affiliate partnerships now established across Scotland, this funding will strengthen efforts to enhance care, health and justice outcomes for children and young people affected by trauma. And as this week marks the first week of Foster Care Fortnight, it's important for me to be clear that foster carers and kinship carers provide safe, stable and loving homes to children and young people who cannot remain with their families. That's why we introduced the Scottish Recommended Allowance in August 2023 to help ensure all eligible foster and kinship carers receive a consistent minimum level of financial support. While we consider the findings of an independent review of the SRA publishing later this month, I'm pleased to say that we will increase the SRA in 25-26 with an additional £1.9 million. This week we also launched a national marketing campaign aimed at recruiting more local authority foster carers, and by the end of 2025 we will publish a new vision for kinship care, reaffirming its central place in the care system. Presiding Officer, these broader measures aim to support children before they come into crisis and before they may need interventions like secure care. Finally, as confirmed in the Programme for Government last week, I will bring forward legislation ahead of the summer recess to further advance the changes required to keep the promise to Scotland's children and to our care-experienced community. And I would really welcome the opportunity to meet with members from across the Chamber following the bill's introduction. Presiding Officer, I hope that this statement reassures members as to our continuing focus on secure accommodation capacity and, importantly, to maintaining our commitment to the highest standards of care across the entire system. Now, I'm aware that members will have further questions on this, and I'm more than happy to answer those now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The Minister will now take questions on the issues raised in her statement. I intend to allow around 20 minutes, after which we'll move on to the next item of business. I encourage members wishing to ask a question who haven't already done so to press the request to speak buttons, and I call first Rose McCall.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I thank the Minister for advance sight of her statement and note the purpose of today's statement was to reassure members of the Scottish Government's focus on secure accommodation capacity and to maintain the commitment to the highest standards of care across the system, but I'm not convinced it does either of those. There's so many worries for me in this statement. The reliance on the Whole Family Wellbeing Fund that varies per local authority, minimal changes in the court process, reduction of children being taken into care numbers are said by many to be delaying proper support. Foster carers, we had a drive last year, but there's still no substantial change in foster carers. The 4-bed National Contingency Resource in Rossi was supposed to alleviate the pressure on the system, was 4 beds, but there's 4 places spaced this morning. And St Mary's Kenmure will be returning to increased capacity, but we've still got staffing issues. The truth, Minister, is that this is now the 3rd statement on this matter in a few months, and we're stuck exactly in the same position we were at the beginning. A secure care system which is bursting at the seams and unable to deliver what was promised during the passage of the Children Care and Justice Act. So my questions are simple. Can the Minister finally confirm to the Chamber at the 3rd time of asking how many children in the past 6 months have been unable to be placed in secure care? And is she still of the view that the over-provision would run contrary to the promise? And will there actually be a tangible change for the statement that we're getting next month?
Minister.
I thank Ros McCall for her questions, and I do not agree with the sentiment that we are in the same position as we were when I delivered my first statement. Now, I've been very open, I've been very transparent with Parliament, I have recognised the issues, we have taken direct action, I've laid out progress in every single one of the statements that I have made to Parliament. So, while I appreciate that there are still ongoing issues, I am committed, and I think I've laid out I've been, again, very open and honest with Parliament in terms of the routes that we are exploring at the moment, all of which may not come to fruition. But this government is taking action. Now, in relation to the question around how many children placed in secure care or haven't been able to have a place, the Scottish Government does not routinely hold case-specific information in relation to that. And I believe I gave that same answer to the member in my previous statement. However, I can assure the member that every single child's case is assessed on a case-by-case basis to ensure both the safety of that child and the other children in the secure care estate, and that will continue as we go on. But I would just highlight that we do have 4 spaces, and I'm looking to augment that further.
Martin Whitfield.
I'm very grateful, Deputy Presiding Officer, and again I thank the Minister for sight of the statement. We are in a really challenging position with regard to this when we look at secure accommodation. We've talked about the availability of 4 beds today. That is in fact actually 3 beds plus 1 emergency bed, which fulfils a different role in the system. In the last statement, when we talked about Rossi, that was offered as a contingency resource, and but for that resource, we would be completely full today. It is now coming up, 4th of June this year will be 1 year since the bill received royal assent, and we are having the same discussions again and again and again. Does the Scottish Government recognise that this lack of forward planning, in the face of all of the evidence that is coming, is continuing to fail some of our most vulnerable children in Scotland?
Minister.
I recognise the concerns that members are bringing to me. I would disagree that there was a lack of forward planning. I was very clear during the passage of the Children Care and Justice Act and in each of my previous statements to Parliament that there was a multitude of planning, and a huge amount of planning took place to ensure that we were ready for the changes that were brought forward as a result of that bill. Now, at the time, there was ample capacity in the secure care system, but this is an evolving matter. And I think, as I say, I have laid out today the additional capacity. We have 4 beds currently. There are other measures being looked at and implemented to increase that further. And again, I would point to the Reimagining Secure Care work, because there are complexities that I'm sure we will get into in relation to others members' questions today, in relation to a child's placement in secure care. And I really do believe that our work on Reimagining Secure Care and our look to the future of that will continue to help with this issue.
Thank you. Audrey Nicholl, to be followed by Sharon Dowie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I do welcome the Minister's statement this afternoon and the engagement that the Minister has consistently had on this issue with the Parliament and indeed the Criminal Justice Committee. And she has been clear before that this issue is not unique to Scotland and is complex. So can the Minister therefore set out how our multi-agency approach in Scotland is bringing partners together in supporting the principles of getting it right for every child?
Minister.
Absolutely, and I think this ties entirely in with our preventative approach, and I hope that the statement reflects the key to making the best use of secure care and to preserving space for those children who need it most is to deliver on GIRFIC. The Promise Scotland have helpfully communicated with us lately just on this exact point, and this means getting the right preventative and de-escalatory interventions in place at the right time. The aim should be to support children in the right way at the right time to prevent concerns developing to the point where a child is in crisis and may need those high-intensity services and interventions. And as I've already said, we'll be reinforcing that in our upcoming response to the Reimagining Secure Care report.
Sharon Dowie, to be followed by Emma Roddick.
Presiding Officer, it's in the interest of the whole of society for there to be an effective and compassionate system for young people who require secure care. But I also know from my own area that the current system of merely tagging known troublemakers is completely ineffective. There have been a number of disturbing, violent examples, particularly around retail, where a tagged young person has been free to wreak havoc and misery and clearly doesn't fear the consequences. So can I ask the Minister what firm plans does the Scottish Government have to tackle this problem and when they will take effect?
Minister.
I think the provisions that are placed on a child as a result of an offence would be a matter for the children's hearings and the report. I cannot comment on individual cases. If Ms Dowie is recognising an issue that is rising in her constituency, I'm more than happy to discuss that issue with her. However, as I say, cannot necessarily comment on specific cases.
Emma Roddick, to be followed by Pam Duncan-Glancy.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I note that the programme for government outlined plans to introduce the Children and Young People Care Bill. Can the Minister outline how this bill will make changes to several key areas in the children's care system, particularly in taking on board recommendations from recent consultations?
Minister.
I recently confirmed to the Education, Children and Young People's Committee my intention to bring forward a bill to Parliament prior to the summer recess, and this was also set out in last week's programme for government. Members will of course appreciate the parliamentary procedures that surround the introduction of legislation, and I'm not able to give any further detail on the content of the bill at this stage ahead of introduction. However, we have carefully considered the views gathered through the numerous consultations undertaken last year, including the next stages of reform of the children's hearing system, the future of foster care, the definition of care experience and the support available to those moving on from care. And I am looking forward to introducing the bill in the coming weeks and strongly welcome the opportunity to engage with members, as I said in my statement.
Duncan-Glancy, to be followed by Eleanor Whittam.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. The SNP Government have failed yet again to implement their own legislation, and this was, I'm afraid, predictable. Indeed, I warned the Minister during scrutiny of the bill that you cannot expect members across the Parliament to vote for a bill that relies so heavily on social work without any reassurance from you that support will be in place to meet the demands of the bill. 13 months since this bill passed, the Children, Care and Justice Act, it is clear that the support isn't in place. And with 3 statements on capacity in 5 months, it's also clear that despite what the Minister says, this response is not one of urgency and care, it's more panic and chaos. So can I ask the Minister, will she finally admit it's not the system that is failing young people this time, it's her government?
Minister.
I disagree entirely, and this has not been hashed together in any form of, a rash decision. The concerns around capacity arose just prior to Christmas 24. I have been working on this continuously. Officials, COSLA, all the relevant partners have been focused on this matter up to today and going forward. As I've laid out in my statement, there are a number of actions that are being looked into, considered, worked upon to try to improve the situation. I would say Ms Duncan-Glancy refers to issues around the workforce, and we are taking a number of actions to support our social work workforce because we understand, of course, how a strong, qualified and experienced workforce will be absolutely fundamental to both the delivery of the Children, Care and Justice Act, but the delivery of the promise as well.
Eleanor Whittam, to be followed by Ross Greer.
I once supported young people with experience of secure care and understand just how vital early access to support is. We know that children in secure care often require multiple services, mental health support, education and vocational training amongst others. Can the Minister outline how the Scottish Government will work to foster greater collaboration with health services, local authorities, education providers and, importantly, the third sector to ensure the wider support needs of these young people are met with a person-centred approach?
Minister.
Absolutely, and I think again this is something that needs to be considered in relation to our response to the sort of reimagining secure care work, but also in terms of our priority to that preventative method. And as I think I said in my last statement, I don't necessarily always agree that the secure care is the appropriate place for a child. So I believe that those conversations and the access to other alternatives are absolutely fundamental. I strongly support the need for that effective partnership working that the member refers to across all relevant sectors, whether that be health, education, to optimise the outcomes of those secure care placements and, as I say, to ensure access to those appropriate alternatives. This is an area that we are currently considering under that work, and I'm more than happy to provide a further update on that as it continues.
Ross Greer to be followed by Willie Rennie.
Thank you. At the Minister's last statement, I asked if she could provide an update on the development of regulations for secure transport provision for children in secure care. We included this in the Children's Care and Justice Bill because of evidence of totally inappropriate use of restraints like handcuffs. The Minister at that point said that she would write to me with an update, and I'm happy to correct the record if I've got this wrong, but I don't believe I've received that, and I'm wondering if she'll be able to provide that update at this point.
Minister.
Mr Greer is correct. He has not yet received that, but I will absolutely be writing to the member shortly with more details. I can confirm that we've laid the commencement regulations on the 24th of April to set this into motion. The first set of national standards on secure transport will now be prepared, published and laid in Parliament within 1 year of those regulations coming into force date. And that coming into force date is September 25, so the secure transport standards will be laid in Parliament by September 26. Now, a working group has been set up to consider the development of these standards. As I say, I will be writing to Mr Greer, and equally, if there's anything else you'd like to discuss further that communication, more than happy to do so.
Willie Rennie to be followed by Rona Mackay.
If the Minister doesn't know how many young people have been denied secure care, how does she know how many extra secure beds are required?
Minister.
I don't think it's a case of one day X amount of secure care beds are required and that is a static process. This is an evolving process. Children require entry into secure care for a number of different reasons, and as I've said, there can be a multitude of different reasons why a placement can't be found or that can be becoming more difficult. I don't think I can emphasise more the work that we have underway to ensure that there is sufficient capacity in the system, that every child's case is able to be looked on at that case-by-case basis and with the best interests of all children involved. And I am confident in the Government's response to this matter, which, as I have emphasised, is an evolving matter and can change on a daily basis.
Rona Mackay to be followed by Megan Gallagher.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. St Mary's Kenmure is in my constituency, and so I welcome the continued focus the Minister has given to this issue. It's very much welcome to hear that capacity in the secure care system has increased, but as the Minister says, clearly that fluctuates daily. Can the Minister please reiterate how capacity has increased since the end of last year?
Minister.
So, between July 23 and July 24, the annual social work statistics confirmed an average of 60 children in secure care against an average overall availability of 71 beds. Now, St Mary's placement embargo was imposed in October 24 following the Care Inspectorate's improvement notice, and that confined St Mary's, as I know the member is aware, to offering 9 beds to children already in their care. They made sufficient progress by March 25 to enable them to open up a further 3 beds. 4 new secure beds in Rossi have now been fully funded by the Scottish Government and opened up last month. Updated guidance has been issued by the Care Inspectorate this year, enabling providers more flexibility over the use of emergency beds. And as my statement indicates, we do expect to take further capacity action in the next short period and are looking at a range of measures to support that.
Megan Gallagher to be followed by Jackie Dunbar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. This statement tells me that the Scottish Government is not confident in delivering the outcomes and targets that have been announced by the Minister. If the new National Contingency Resource Facility had not been opened last month, there would be no beds available for children who require secure accommodation. That's not progress. Members today have asked about data. In relation to young people who have not been able to be placed into secure accommodation because of the lack of beds. And for the Minister to respond saying that the Scottish Government doesn't hold any data on that whatsoever is simply nonsense. The Minister has known that we need this data in order to scrutinise the work of the Scottish Government. So can I ask the Minister, why has she not looked into looking at the data surrounding this issue? And given we are talking about issues relating to the promise, can I ask the Minister why it's taken so long to bring forward the promise bill, given that it was her party that gave their word to care experienced young people that this would be brought before the end of this parliamentary term?
Minister.
Thank you. I'm interested in understanding how Megan Gallagher doesn't have any, or believes that the statement shows that we have no confidence in our response. I think I have been very clear that I do have confidence in our response. This is a difficult issue. Nobody is backing away from that. And Megan Gallagher is bringing to me hypotheticals if Rossi wasn't available. Rossi is available as a direct result of Scottish Government funding and Scottish Government priority. So I don't want to deal with hypotheticals. I want to deal with fact and reality, which is exactly what I have laid out in my statement. Now, in relation to the Promise Bill, I was clear in committee, I've been clear today. The Promise Bill is coming, and in good time to ensure that the committee can have scrutiny. I have wanted to make sure that the bill is as strong as possible to deliver on that promise to care experienced children and young people, and I am sure that when that bill is introduced, it will do just that.
Jackie Dunbar, to be followed by Stephen Kerr.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On Monday, the First Minister launched a new national campaign on fostering. Can the Minister outline what the message of the campaign is, what it will do and how MSPs across the Chamber can help support it?
Minister.
So, as noted in my statement, the Government launched a national recruitment campaign on Monday to coincide with the start of Foster Care Fortnight, and the focus of the campaign is that ordinary can be extraordinary for a child in foster care, showing that everyday moments can change lives. Now, fostering is open, of course, to people from all walks of life. No specific qualifications are needed, and you don't need to have children of your own. This campaign will run for 7 weeks across TV, video, on-demand, radio and press, and I hope MSPs can support in promoting the campaign in their local constituencies and online. Now, I wrote directly to all MSPs on Monday with details about the campaign, because together we can help ensure every child has the stable and nurturing home that they deserve.
And Stephen Kerr.
Well, the Minister needs to understand, Deputy Presiding Officer, that we don't have confidence in her statement. She is the Minister responsible for the system, and what she has brought to Parliament today is another set of maybes aye, maybes no. And that is not the way to run any aspect of government, but especially when we're talking about some of the most vulnerable young people in our country. So I'm going to give the Minister an opportunity here to be a little bit more precise about the issue of operational capacity. First of all, can she please define, for the purposes of this Parliament's information, what full operational capacity is? And can she give a specific guarantee about the timeline by which that capacity will be in operation?
Minister.
I'm not quite clear that I understand the basis of Mr Kerr's question, so if I don't answer his question in my response today, then I am more than happy for the member to write to me, and I will do so that way. I am sorry that members don't have confidence. However, I don't believe we're dealing with ifs and buts. I have came here today with this statement and delivered on real action in terms of restoring that capacity. I have tried to be as open and honest and share with you the range of measures. It would have been my preference to come to do the statement in June, when I could have probably had more concrete progress to advise on. But as I say, I've wanted to be as open and honest as I could be. Not all of the measures I've announced today will be fulfilled, but I am confident that the Government is taking the action that is needed, and we will deliver for the children and young people who need it most.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes this item of business. There will be a brief pause before we move to the next item of business to allow front benches to change.